What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another video. Just before we get started, I might sound a little bit under the weather. I'm not sick. I just have a very, very bad sore throat. I haven't been coughing, I haven't been sneezing. I just have a lot of drainage running down the back of my throat, and it's irritated my throat. And yeah. So I've actually got a headset on to help with the audio because I know if I didn't, you know, use my headset, the audio wouldn't be that, or you wouldn't be able to hear me basically. Also, if you hear me like crunch on something, I have a cough drop in my mouth that I'm kind of sucking on to help ease the pain of the sore throat. So today it's not really a deck profile, it's more of like, in my opinion, decks that need support, and I'm gonna do them in order of the most support needed. Then, if support was seen, it might see play, and then the third one, uh, the deck might not even really need support because it has a lot of really good one card combos already. But I think that the archetype itself could use more, better support. So starting us off with the first, archetype that I think needs the most help right now, Dynamist. You guys know I love this deck. Dynamist is my absolute favorite archetype of all time. It is the most simplistic deck you can play. However, the loss of Electromite really does hinder this deck a lot. The simple fact of the matter being that Dynamist can't even really play much, and their current playstyle is too slow for the metagame, so you can't even really play the deck. I feel like if they saw their own archetypal Electromite, I'm not saying like as good as Electromite, but if they saw a card similar to that of Electromite, then I feel like the deck could be a little bit better. And if they had like a couple more spells and traps, that would help them with spamming and searching and all this and that. Their search capability isn't that great. They have 2 cards that search. One of them is fantastic, being Dynamist Charge. Or no, right? Yeah, it's Charge. Charge is really, good. And then the other one is Dynamist Terran, which has to destroy something by battle in order to search. And it's a level 4 with 1800 attack. It's not the greatest. If they had more options for searching like they did with Electromite, that would be nice. And maybe some new main deck monsters that also help with spamming out monsters, because right now the only way you can quote unquote spam outside of Pendulum Summoning is with Dynamist Ceratops and Dynamist Brachion. Brachion summons itself if your opponent controls the monster with the highest attack on the field, even if tied. And then Ceratops summons itself if you control another Dynamist that isn't Ceratops. If we had a couple of monsters that were like, oh, when this card is normal or special, you can do something. If we had a couple of monsters like that, I feel like that would help out with the deck as well, and it would help it give it a better play style. But, yeah. Other than that, Dynamist, they need a lot of TLC right now. Or they just need to bring Electromite back. I know a lot of you are going to be like, no, they shouldn't bring Electromite back because Pendulum is stupid broken with Electromite at 1. Well, look at the current meta. We have True King of all Calamities. It's a floodgate. We have Halka-Fibrax, which is a 1-card combo machine. Then we have Dragoon. We have all these other things that are legal, right? I mean, hell, look at Drytron. They're a ritual archetype, and they're destroying the meta, and rituals aren't even that great. But yeah, I feel like one Electromite wouldn't change the meta back to being Endymion. In fact, if they did one thing extra to balance it out, by giving us one Electromite, they turn Chrono into a 1-of or a 2-of, or ban it or whatever. Because Chronograph Sorcerer is one of the biggest issues for Pendulums. It gives you 2 bodies from your hand. It's searchable by Electromite, yes, and whatever. But Astrograph is banned for the same reasons. I think Chronograph could probably take a little bit of a hit, because Astrograph summoned itself when a card you controlled was destroyed. So everybody used Astrograph over Chronograph to summon off of, Electromite destroying something. So yeah, in my opinion, it wasn't Electromite that was causing problems. It was more of like the decks it was being played in, because you can grab any Pendulum monster with Electromite, and then something like Chronograph Sorcerer and Astrograph Sorcerer giving you free bodies on the board from drawing a card. That's a little bit much. And then, yeah, I can also search the mythical beasts, but at this point in the game, that's too slow. Another thing is, Electromite kind of dies to Effect Veiler and Imperm and whatever. Like, if your Electromite gets Effect Veilered, well, it's at 1, that it's whatever, But I feel like if Dynamists had their own version of Electromite that specifically required Dynamists or locked you into Dynamists or whatever, but it had similar effects to, Electromite, that would be pretty nice. And I feel like that would push Dynamist over a certain boundary where, they need to be able to be playable. Because I want every deck in the game to be playable, and I know you could probably play a Frog Engine in Dynamist, and you could probably play whatever in Dynamist, because water. But I love me some pure Dynamist, and I hate the fact that it's set up a few monsters with your scales and howling and then pass. So we're gonna move off of Dynamist. That was the more serious one. Next up on, the archetypes that I believe could use a little bit of support to start. Well, that was the one that was serious. This one's like, yeah, I'm pretty sure if it saw a couple cards of support, it would see play, and that is Monarchs. Now, I'm not saying the deck absolutely needs it, because you can play Draco Monarchs and be fine. Or you can technically play pure Monarchs and be fine as well. But for me, I feel like the deck has a few issues, and a lot of people play it different than I do. I don't play 3 Erebus because I don't like playing 3 Erebus. His effect is all around worse than a lot of other effects. His only real useful effect is when he's tribute summoned. His graveyard effect relies on you discarding a spell or trap, and sometimes if you don't have that spell or trap in your hand, his effect kind of but and then Aether obviously used to be at 1 on the ban list. Same thing with Pantheism. But my whole thing is we have a Monarch for Heaven, and then we have, or being Aether for heaven, and then we have a Monarch for the other world, which is Erebus. I feel like we could have a Monarch for, either being alive or in limbo or something like that. I feel like that would be a really cool concept. It would be another level 8 with 28 and 1,000, and it would have the send to do something effect. I'm not saying have it be anything crazy. Maybe be like mill 2, gain an additional or tribute summon this turn, and then give it a graveyard effect to like only on your turn discard a Monarch card, Foolish Burial, a Squire. I feel like that would be cool, and have that be like a hard once. That would be something cool. But that's just me. And I don't know if that would give Monarchs too much advantage, being able to mill 2 for another tribute summon, so you could possibly mill 2 again. And then, actually, yeah, now that I think about it, that would net them too much advantage. I don't know. I just want something, interesting, to say the least. I feel like if Monarchs had some sort of interesting support in a recent set, they would be fine. But, yeah. It's a good deck, regardless of, the very minimal support that they have. Well, I can't really say minimal because they have probably one of the best generic spell cards in the game, being Pantheism, but I'm going to get off the high horse for Monarchs, and we're going to get into our last archetype. And our last archetype is Marincess. This isn't a Marincess card. Huh. Marincess. Obviously, by the fact that I had this card out here, means I'm still working on Marincess, obviously, but Marincess is a good deck, don't get me wrong. They make towers that's too big for access code to even get over. They make all this other, really cool stuff with one card. However, the only Marincess cards that really seem to get play in the main deck, the extra deck is basically all Marincess, is obviously Blue Tang, and then you have Seahorse and Mandarin. These are the only 3 out of the many Marincess monsters we have. There's more than you think. There's more than enough to make a pure Marincess deck, but none of them are really that great. Crown Tail is a perfect example. It's not that great of a card. I really don't want to read its effect right now. I can just tell you though, this card has probably one of the worst effects for a Marincess monster. And I'm just gonna leave that off to the side and alone. So, yeah. So a lot of Marincess decks will have 3 copies of each of these, and then 1 copy or 2 copies of Mandarin. And if you open with these 2, it's a 1 card link 4. That's a Towers. That's also bigger than access code. And then obviously, like I said, the extra deck is going to be nothing but just said extra deck, or said nothing but Marincess. So like they don't really need any more extra deck monsters, but they really only have 3 main deck monsters that are playable, which kind of sucks because I mean, it leads to creativity with with like extenders and stuff. People play like Shithana or Silent Angler or whatever. They play a bunch of water stuff. They play frog engines. I've seen a lot of frog engine versions of Marincess, and they still play this at like 2 or 3. I I will experiment with Marincess on my own time and see if I can figure it out. I've even seen some builds that don't play Signet Mining and they can still pull off the full 1 card combo for Marincess. Yeah, I feel like that really all this deck needs is a couple more decent main deck effects. That's really it. If they had any more, decent main deck effects, I feel like the deck would be even more played. I've even seen Mermail Marincess because you can play the one, or you can play like Seahorse and whatever, and wombo combo off because Seahorse is infinite discard fodder. I don't remember the YouTube channel name for the channel that did that video, but she had a really good build for for Atlantean Mermail Marincess. Anyways, that's it for the video, guys. I know I sound terrible, right? My throat sounds horrible, but I've got to stop talking for a little bit. I need to rest my voice. So I will see you all next week for another video. Oops, I just punched my camera. Oops. I will see you all next week for another video. Peace.